My estranged brother decided it was a good idea to steal my identity and get these credit cards, loans, you name it. He went ahead and ruined me. Well, I sent him to jail, and now my family's blaming me because I won't pay the bail to get him out, and I'm the only one with money. So I decide to do this. I did not always have a peaceful and financially comfortable life, as I do now. I come from a world of struggle and a world where all those who struggled were close-knit, coming together to help one another and unburden some of the burdens on our plates. It pains me when I think about the decision I would have to make regarding a member of the close-knit family, my brother, Benjamin. Benjamin and I were the sole children of Hannah and a deceased father. As my mother would recall it often, we were nothing but a bunch of babies when it happened. Plague had hit the valley, affecting those with a weak gene and immune more than it did others. They would perish in the hands of the deadly and fast-spreading disease. My father, unfortunately, had been one of them. My mother had been fearing we might have inherited those genes, but we took to her. She would still keep us isolated from him and went through the whole process of grieving and burying our dad, all by herself. The plague not only destroyed families, but destroyed the mental and financial health of many. Well, the Great Depression followed the plague, and we were raised by our aunts and uncles while our mother went out to work 2 jobs just to put food on our plates. My brother Benjamin and I shared a room. We would read stories to each other, and he would comfort me when I missed our mom. It was not long until the worst had passed. Mom got a job that would bring us out of poverty, and we would start schooling, and Benjamin had not always been too smart, and he was in the same grade as me more than often. Our mother had worked hard to give us happy and fulfilling life. I wanted her to know I did not take it for granted and worked equally as hard in school and college, just to get good grades and land a good job. Benjamin, meanwhile, was lacking, failing grades, and our mother suggested he just drops out, but he did not want to, as he would not get to see his friends. I grew up in what others call poverty, and so it was only ironic that I got a degree in finance and landed a high-paying job as a financial advisor for a rather successful tech company. Not long after, I shifted her mom, my brother, and me into a big house where we each had a room to ourselves. Unlike the previous one, where I would share a room with my mother. By 30, I had become a diligent financial advisor, leading a peaceful life with my family in a calm suburban district, oblivious to the tempest that was about to unfold. Well, let me tell you just a bit more about my brother, Benjamin. He's 3 years older than me, from what I had observed, and might be my mother's favorite child, even though I had been more successful than him, while he would just become a burden on our mother. After having tried his hand at school, Benji gave up and started to find menial jobs, and he could easily learn and become skilled at. One fine day, Benji's luck struck, and he landed a rather large commissioned pay that would suffice him and leave a lot more for him to either spend or save. Knowing Benji, I had known what to expect. Benji would come home smelling like cigarettes and alcohol. There was days when his bed would not have been slept in, and I had started to become worried about Benji. I asked Mom how he was doing as he would share stuff with her, and Hannah informed me of Benji's new job and how he felt, and, well, he had struck a pot of gold. Therein began his destructive habit of reckless spending and his gambling addiction. He would gamble for hours, winning some, losing some, but that did not matter, as according to him, he would never need to slack himself at work for a measly pay. As his sister and a financial advisor, his behavior had been concerning to me, and I guess you could say the natural feeling of seeing money go to waste had been fed into me when I started as a financial advisor. I once asked Benji for his accounts, and he complied, giving me access to them. What I found absolutely baffled me. Benji had been racking up debt as he went on these gambling habit sprees. You see, he was spending and losing more than he was earning, and Hannah had told me Benji had had a hard time since childhood, and I should just let him do whatever he wants as it was his money, and she had seen him happy and carefree after what was really a long time. Benji owed a lot of money to a lot of people, and he started asking around for help from his friends, family, me, and even Mom. His friends would lend him small amounts of money whenever they could, and I would too, to do the same, but I downright declined his request for more money. I let Benji sort out his own monetary problems as I had to cater to my own life and issues, I told him that after he had paid off his debt, I could help manage his financial accounts to prevent him from going into debt in the future. I also suggested he stop spending and gambling his money away. Benji turned a deaf ear to my suggestions, and in a month I noticed a significant change in Benji. He had become more secretive. He would rarely talk about his financial problems, and I hoped it was something good, such as him having sorted out his debts and being in a financially stable place. Unbeknownst to me, Benji had stolen a vital thing from me. He had stolen my identity. I often left my personal accounts and cards unlocked at home, as I trusted both Benji and Hannah. Benji, unable to confront the consequences of his actions, had chosen to run from his problems by stealing my identity. He had taken advantage of my trust and 2 of my credit cards, and he was able to extract my pristine credit score from online sites. And combined with my unblemished reputation, he began applying for loans left and right and even more credit cards. He would update the numbers so the phone calls would get directed to him, and unknowingly I was sinking under the weight of his financial burdens. I decided to move on as I was in a much better financial place. Without a blemish on my record, I was easily able to acquire a home for myself and promised my mom I would help her out whenever I could. I moved into my new home, and I breathed in the calm, peaceful air and sat down, just taking it all in. I relished in it all, feeling proud of the fruits of my hard work. Sure, I was going to miss Benji and Hannah, but I was excited to embark upon my new phase of my life. I was just settling into my new home and had invited Benji and my mom over for dinner. Mom had offered to help me set the furniture up and help me sort out my stuff. I was glad for extra hands and set upon making them hot dinner for when they showed up. Hannah showed up first, and a beaming smile was on her face as it lit up when she saw me. I welcomed her in, but did not notice Benji with her and asked about his whereabouts. Hannah murmured something indistinct and said he would be here in just another few minutes or so. So, Benji showed up not long after, and we all sat down for dinner. I spoke first and asked about what has been happening in their lives. Nothing special, just the usual work, life. I inquired with Benji about his debt and whether it was resolved or not, and he just nodded and spoke nothing further of it. I did not press him, and I believed his words, and I told him I was happy to see him solving his problems and would love to see him grow in life. And I would be by his side to help him if he ever needed financial advice. Well, the advice would be free, of course, for him, as he was my brother, and my brother and mother finished up their dinner and helped me set up my, new house, chatting away as we worked, and it was a happy and peaceful scenario. Little did I know about the extreme shock I would wake up to in just a few days' time. I get up one fine morning, and I make breakfast for myself as I got dressed for work. I drove to work and logged in onto the computer at my workplace that they assigned me, and I checked my email for what might be the first time in a few weeks, as I had been pretty, occupied lately to do so. There were a few spam emails, and I noticed a few unrecognized emails from several banks. I opened one for it to display a rather large sum of money that I supposedly owed a bank. I felt my heart stop for a second, and I rushed to check the other mail. The content was similar to the first one. It was large sums of money, enough to put me in debt for several years, unless I paid it all. I checked to see whether they had the right person or not. There was emails from banks I did not have an account with. Emails of several loans being left unpaid and tons of interest that would be put on them. I was frozen in time as I sat there dumbfounded, trying to take it all in and wrap my head around it, but I was failing badly. I could not fathom how I would receive all these emails and could have racked up all the unpaid money from credit cards and loans. I simply do not recall having applied to any of those credit cards or loans ever. It was tears that started to, stream down my face as I sat there dumbfounded, and I quickly wiped them away. I logged out of work and informed my boss of an emergency that had come up and requested a day off. So, Lord knows I need a day off to sort all this confusion out, and I got back in my car and drifted through traffic. Got back home and slammed the door behind me in a rush. I brought out all my accounts, my cards, my laptop, and got set to work. I made a list of the bank accounts I had, the money in them, and my credit card usage, and compared it to the new emails that I received. There was a huge amount of unaccounted money and new cards that had been issued to my name. Wow. Along with loans I have never applied to, I decided to contact the banks that had issued the credit cards and loans and just simply inquire about them. The customer care service lady was nice to give me the answers that I've been so desperately looking for. She picked up and I bombarded her with questions as soon as she did. And she was patient and started explaining all the debt I was now in and the money I owed banks and credit cards, and she told me the dates the application for the same was sent. She told me that I could have applied for these cards and loans if I had my credit score and social security details. I informed her I had not lent anybody my social security details at all, and she advised me to go to the police. I asked her if there was any way I could find out about the person responsible for this, and she unfortunately said no, but indulged me with the minor detail that would simply lead me to the criminal responsible. She read out the number attached to my profile, and it was simply not mine. I made a quick Google search on my phone to quickly pinpoint the person who did it. To my surprise, my brother, Benjamin, was displayed right there. I thanked the lady on the phone and sat in surprise as I thought about how or why Benji would have done this to me. I needed answers. I needed the truth. And the only way to find out is to talk to him, or rather confront him in person. I made up my mind and got in my car to drive to my mother's place where Benji lived, and I had thought of one or two things on my mind that I would simply say to him. I knocked on my mother's door and she opened up the door to find me in the doorway. I pushed her aside and asked her, "Where is Benji?" I was fuming at this point, and my mother told me Benji was away and would be home later, so I was free to wait. She asked me what was wrong, and I sighed as I have begun recounting the truth I had uncovered. I told her how I was alerted by the banks about suspicious activity on my account and was startled by it. My mother knew I had a clean slate and was extremely good at managing my finances, and I told her how I had delved into my financial records and unearthed the most shocking truth. Benjamin stole my social security and my identity and used it to apply to so many credit cards and loans. My mother sat there with this surprised look upon her face, which told me she was oblivious to the actions of her son. I noticed the door to Benji's room swung open as I waited for him to come home, and I decided to check out his stuff meanwhile. I noticed a book on the table right beside his laptop. I logged into it and, I flipped through the book. There were several pages of accounts of money that had taken on my name, and a page of my details and my credit cards fell out as I was flipping through it. I looked through the folders on his laptop to find further information related to my accounts and money. I was fuming with anger by the time that I was done. I would speak my mind when he arrived, you best believe that. Benji had a rather mad sister to come home to, and a confrontation that I knew could get ugly. As soon as he stepped in through the door and lay sight upon me, he could sense something was wrong, as I had never looked angry as much as I had before at him. I walked up to him and told him I had found out what he had done, and he better confess now or face my wrath. He stumbled as he spoke and tried to mix up all the facts and information in order to confuse me, but I was not having it. He told me how he had done it because I had told him how I was there to help him get clear of his debts. He also added that since I was his sister and was financially stable, it was my duty as his family to help him out. So, what if he took some money in my name? I retaliated and told him that not only had he stolen my credit cards, he had stolen my whole financial identity. And clearing up what was a perfect record and removing all those new blemishes on my financial record would cost me months, even years of my effort, time, and money. My mother stood watching us bicker and broke us apart when the fight got a bit too heated. My mom tried calming me down and agreed with Benji that paying a little towards helping my brother and providing him with provisions that could help him was my responsibility as his sister. After all, I was earning more than him, and her words only seemed to make it worse as I picked up my stuff to leave. I took my credit cards from him and deleted all my data on his laptop. I took the notebook with me as it had my details in it, and I told him he had a few months to pay me the amount of money that he had borrowed in my name. Without another word, I left my mother's house and Benji looking rather disheveled. I got in my car and drove back to my house, replaying the conversation in my head over and over again. I got to my home and sat in silence, trying to calm myself down. I felt heartbroken and betrayed, and I decided to do what I felt was right and made the call to the police to report my brother's actions. I informed them of how my brother Benjamin had partaken in fraud by using my name to apply for various loans and credit, leaving me in debt. The police told me they would handle it, and I thanked them and hung up. It had been a long and tiring day, so I just decided to retire to bed early. I was woke up to a string of phone calls and texts, several from Benjamin, most of them from Hannah. I called her to ask her what was going on, and she screamed at me for reporting Benji to the police, and told me that they had shown up in the dead of the night and took him away in handcuffs. I told Hannah he deserved it for what he's done to me, and she hung up on me, and I should have known she would take my brother's side rather than mine. The next few days were absolute hell for Benji, or so I hope. He had been arrested, and his fraudulent actions were exposed. He was gonna face severe legal consequences, and I was glad to finally be getting some sort of justice. I got a call from my mother, saying Benji needed to talk to me, and he pitched in through jail and joined the call. He apologized profusely and said he would correct all the wrongdoings once he was out of jail, and then, in the nicest tone and words he could muster, he asked me for help to bail him out. My mother chipped in, saying if I cared at all about my brother or her, I would help my brother out. She added that I was the reason he was in a terrible place anyways. I denied him and hung up on them. In the next hour or so, my phone kept ringing nonstop as the rest of the family, who had gotten wind of Benji's situation from my mother, kept calling or texting saying stuff like family sticks together, and I should forgive Benji and get him out of jail since I was the one who had put them there in the first place. I've been trying my best to drown everyone out as I try to sort out all my accounts. But the words of my family have gotten to me, and I'm left feeling torn between my family ties and the gross injustice that I've suffered. And so, I've turned to all of you just to help me sort out my conflicted feelings, and I just need to know, am I the a-hole for reporting my brother's crime and refusing to pay his bail, thereby potentially leading to his imprisonment, or did I justifiably retaliate against the gross violation and fraud committed against me? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So I do have one update that I was able to find in the comment section. It took a little bit of digging, but we're about to get some answers that we needed. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. If you're new to the channel, I post every single day, and so if you want more videos, just subscribe so you never miss a story. Here is update number 1. I've been trying to come to terms with everything that's happened, leaving my world turned upside down. It's been 4 to 5 days since Benjamin was arrested, and both he and my mother are still pestering me to pay Benji's bail. I've kept up my resolve of denying them both, but I don't know for how long. A part of me wants to help my brother out, whereas the major part of me was still angry at him, and thought he deserved the punishment. My financial score had taken a pretty bad hit, and that would take years to clear up. Just as I've been grappling with the decision to pay Benjamin's bail, I had stumbled upon a damning piece of evidence, brought to my notice by a dear friend of Benji's. I received a text from his friend Ian, who I might have met once or twice. He asked if we could meet up as he had important information to convey. I agreed to meet up with him and even asked if I could meet him at the nearby cafe the same evening as the information was rather important. I had stayed up most of the night sorting out my accounts and just figuring out the amount to be paid back to the banks. It was way beyond what Benji currently earns, and I had to leave for work afterward and was pretty tired after all of it, and my tiredness is evident on my face. I walked into the cafe and found Ian already seated at the table. So I greeted him as I sat down and he shook my hand. He told me he did not want to beat around the bush and just wanted to get straight to the facts. He told me about the visit that he had made to prison in order to see Benji. Benji was brought out in handcuffs and he seemed rather annoyed and looked troubled. Once he sat down in front of Ian, he began unraveling his complaints and told him about how bad jail was and how he wished to be in bed right now and eat home-cooked meals rather than the stale prison meals that he was served daily. The conversation then moved to me on how I had been denying my own brother bail money and would rather see him suffer in jail. Well, Ian asked what had happened between us, and Benji delved into the story of how he had applied for loans in my name, as I did have a better credit score than him, and he also told Ian that I had offered my help to him, so Benji had only thought it meant he was free to use my information and money to help get himself out of his financial troubles. And after finding out about it all, I lost my mind and called the police on him, rather than sitting down and sorting it out like adults. I told Ian how Benji had left the bits out and was simply exaggerating my reactions. Ian listened on patiently as I explained the real facts about what happened. He too felt sympathy for me and agreed that Benji was the wrong person here and told me I was right for calling the police on him. I deserved the justice I was getting. I told him how my mother and Benji had been pestering me for Benji's bail money, and Ian, in a rather serious tone, asked me not to do so. When I questioned why, he told me of Benji's secret plan, which Benji had blabbed about to Ian during a visit to him. Hannah had applied for Benji's passport with help from relatives, and she was able to connect enough money for a ticket to a different country for Benji. All that was left was his being granted of bail, but since it was rather a large amount of money, she could not find a way to collect it, and so she and Benji devised a, plan to obtain the bail money from me and bail Benji out. Following which, he would collect his hidden passport and leave the country, and he had devilishly plotted to flee the country once released, intending to leave me with the wreckage of his misdeeds. This revelation only strengthened my resolve and made my decision absolutely crystal clear to not help Benji by providing him the money needed for his bail. Deep down, I'm saddened by all this as I love my brother, and still do. But what he did was terribly wrong, and I ended up bearing the brunt of his actions. I could only hope he learns a lesson or two about financial and identity theft in prison. Meanwhile, I'm going to turn down his and Hannah's request and drown out the voices of other family members who told me wrong for not helping my own brother out. I thanked Ian and asked him to keep me informed about Benji, as he and Benji were rather close. Ian is now my inside man. He wished me well in my process of sorting out my accounts. I've made up my mind, guys, to contact those banks and cancel the credit cards, but I would still have to work hard to pay off the loan money. Wow. Anyways, thanks for listening. So, this story was a little wild. I want to talk about the comment section though, because it surprised me quite a bit. Not everybody was on OP's side. A lot of people were saying, you know what? It's your brother. You should have bailed him out. You should have helped him. You don't even know if that story about him running away to another country when he gets out on bail is legit, or if the dude was lying to you. So I want to come here and ask you guys, what do you think about this story? Drop your opinions directly below in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito. Welcome to my channel. If you want more daily videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day, and remember, it's cool to be kind.